Get your Detroit DIY apparel today. Check out the store in the link provided in the description. Thank you. Today we're going to trim out this glass sliding door. This is a new door install. I posted a video a couple weeks ago installing this door. And because of that, we have no inner case here. So I have to go through with the inner case and then the outer trim. I have to trim the baseboard molding, and we're also going to make a temporary tread, maybe permanent, I don't know. I'm just going to use some pine, not a hardwood. Not real thrilled about it, but we're going to redo the flooring in here in the next year or so, so I can always change that out. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's get started. I'm going to be using my new Saw Set Pro to help me get this job done today. The first thing I want to do is, if you watched the other video, we tore the outside wall apart, not the inside, and we cut this paneling out with the Sawzall, so it's a little rough and bumpy and sticking down in some areas. I'm going to use my DeWalt oscillating multi-tool and get this done. Let's do it. So I just need to go through and get all this flush with the 2x4. So when I put I'm going to be using some 1x material in here that I'll rip down in the table saw to cover this over, and then my trim will cover that over. So I'll finish cutting this down and then we'll start working on this stuff. I've got all my wood cut away. I'm sorry about the exposure here, but I've got so much light coming through this door that if I don't lock the exposure, I'm just dark and all you see is the lake. What I need to do next is, anytime you do a vinyl door install, you always have your rough opening and there's a space right here. Well, what happens is this is a little bit flimsy. As you push on the door, you can see it moving. So we need to come in here with some shims and shim this up so that it's not so tight that it's pushing it out and that it makes it wavy, or so loose that your screw pushes it in. And right inside the door opening here, as we open the door, we're going to come in here and drill a couple little holes and put some screws in. So I'm going to get these shims set up and then we'll show you how we're going to do that. I've got these three set up, and I still want to do one more up high and one more down low. But I just kind of want to show you with the shims. The shims are tapered, thicker on one end and thinner on the other. Let's take a closer look. So what we have is thin on one end and thick on the other, and the same thing here. So we're going to face them together like this, and once we get them in there, we start pulling this bottom one out, and thusly it increases the thickness. If you can't get the thickness, but the two ends, the two bigger ends are thick enough, you can always break a little bit off of one end or cut it off, so that you have enough when you start pulling the two together that it's not hitting the wall or the inside material and stopping it from being able to push in further. Now that I've got these in here and set, I'm going to drill a 3/16 hole right through the center of this frame, through these shims. If it bumps the wood, that's okay, but I do not want to drill into the wood. Now what I want to do is run some spacks, 2-inch wafer head screws in, pan heads. Just a nice flat head screw. You don't want a tapered screw here. It tightened it up very nice. I'm going to get me one more set of shims up above and one down below, kind of midway between these two gaps. And then I'm going to do the other side, and then we'll move on with getting this stuff finished. Now that I've installed this door, there's a good look of the view out of my bedroom here. Very nice. Now the shims are cut off, and what I want to do is just go ahead and take this. This is a 1x5 that I picked up at the big box store. And I want to just slip it in here like this. It's a little tight. Then I just want to mark the top of it with a pencil, and I'll take it out and cut it down in the table saw. If it's not perfectly straight, my markings, that's okay. What I'll do is I'll cut it down to the narrowest of the two markings, because when I'm all finished, I'm going to come in through here with a bead of caulk anyway. So if there's a little 1/8 inch gap or something on one side, it's no big deal. Now what I want to do is mark what was the inside, so that I know that I need to cut on this side of my line. That way I don't wind up with something way smaller than I wanted. So what I have on this end is 2 3/8. And on this end I also have 2 3/8. So we're in good shape. I'm going to go cut this down to 2 3/8 on the table saw, and we'll get this first piece installed. I've got this piece ripped down, but before I install it up here, I just want to go to these outside edges and check the thickness. If it's the same thickness and it sets in there good, being this is a little bit shorter, it'll be able to set it in there nice, have a look, slide it up to the top, and check it out. If it is, then I'll just go rip the others down this exact same thickness. I'm very happy with the fit, so I believe that I'll just go ahead and rip everything down, and we'll get this one in, and then we'll get these sides cut to length. This is a prime example of a dangerous situation in a table saw. I was ripping this down for the glass sliding door in there, and as I was pushing it through, the tension and the grain of this board is pinching the kerf of the cut back closed. So my problem is now is this board is basically bound in my table saw. It started lifting it up, I got it turned off, the blade stopped almost instantly because of there's so much pressure right now on the riving knife, and the blade is not even coming through the wood. So if this was a smaller piece of wood with less ability to hold on to it and handle it, this would have been a kickback. So the riving knife is in here, it doesn't matter. There is so much tension on this board, you have to know when to stop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a shim in here and open this kerf back up to allow me to finish cutting this piece. So something just like that. It'll hold that kerf open, and then I can finish cutting. The top piece is in place, and I have both of the side pieces cut to length and ripped down. And what I like to do is I like to take the edge that I put through the table saw, or the edge that the blade cut, and put it against the door. So that if there's any little variations, I have caulking that's going there anyway, and that'll be corrected. So I like to cut these where they're a little bit snug, and they'll push right into place, just like that. I like that a lot. I'm gonna nail them in. Now that these are nailed, I just want to go ahead with some wood putty and fill these nail holes up right now. Then I don't have to come back, do it later. I kind of just like to finish the process while I'm here. Now that I've got those nailed in wood putty, this is the board that I'm going to use for my sill. And my floor, I'm going to put it right on top of this carpet and trim that carpet out a little bit. Like I say, I'm just going to put a few pin nails in here to hold it in place. But my carpet is higher than my sill. So what I need to do is glue a piece of wood onto the back side or the bottom of this to make up this difference. Then I'll get it measured out and I'll run it through the table saw and trim it down once it dries. The other thing I want to do is more like a typical tread, is run this through the table saw and cut it on a slight angle through here. I would like that angle to run back to about this intersection right here, or slightly further. I wouldn't have a problem with that either. I'm set up at a 10-degree angle. I'm going to give that a shot. I can always adjust it in more but not out, but I think 10 will be fine. A little awkward. You can hear how much more the saw labors when you're cutting through the grain in that direction instead of ripping. It definitely works the saw out and it works the blade over too. I am pretty happy with that angle. I'm going to give this a little sand down. I'm going to measure the strip that I need to put onto here and get it glued on. I ripped down a piece of material and glued it to the bottom of my tread. While that's drying, before I can cut it and fit it, I'm going to go ahead and install this case molding. It's fairly straightforward and it's going to be fairly simple. So what we're going to need to do is come up into here now, the two pieces that we just installed, and get our angle. Pull this out a little further, give that thumb nut a nice tighten. Now we're going to come over to the double miter side of our Saw Set Pro. So we set our T-bevel into our Saw Set Pro and we slide it up against the stop. As you can see, we are beyond any scale. So we need to come over to the other side. And we can come over here and we can see that we are at 44.5 degrees. So our miter cut is 44.5 degrees. Let's get it cut. Good to be outside. Got some correct color, some correct exposure. It's kind of nice. When we install this thicker part of the trim is going to go away from the opening. So when we cut our angle on here, our angle is going to be like this, meaning that the side piece will trim into this piece. So that's 44.5 degrees. Let's set the saw and get it cut. Most saws do not have half-degree increments. They have single-degree increments. So as you can see, I am right in between 44 and 45 with my pointer, and we're going to cut this thing. The next thing I need to do is mark this base molding to be cut. When we put the door in, we cut through with the Sawzall. So my case molding needs to go to the floor, not like that. So what I'm going to need to do is just mark this case molding over here on the side. Then I'll get me a straight line down it and I'll cut it off with my oscillating multi-tool. Okay, that is nice. I like the fit. Now we'll get the angle cut for this piece and then we'll get the length cut. I have the piece of case molding for the edge here and I'm just going to set it in place. I'm not big on using a tape measure when it comes to installing case molding. I mark everything off exactly how it goes. I don't use the tape measure at all. I'm going to use this intersecting corner right here as my cut. Now what I might do is just leave that a tick long, make sure that I'm good, and if I need to I can just trim a quarter of a saw blade width off. But this is my mark, so I am going to go cut my 44.5 degree angle on here. Then we're going to figure out our angle on the other side and get them cut. Before I cut the angle on the other side, I just want to have a quick look at my height and make sure that I'm good. And I'm going to do that with this piece. And I'm really happy with that. Now I want to do the same thing on this side. Get my T-bevel up here, get my angle, come back over here to the double miter side of my SawSet Pro. I can already see it is also a little short. Well, maybe not. And we are money at 45 degrees. So that's a good deal. I'm going to go get that cut. On this side piece, I'm going to mark it the same way in the very corner. Come in, make sure that it's good, and then I'll cut the top. My top piece of trim is probably one of the most horrible pieces of trim that I've seen. Unfortunately, selection wasn't good, so it kind of it's a mess, but I believe I can push it into place as I nail it. I'm going to go ahead and nail this first piece on, and I'm going to use that to help hold the top piece so that I can get my mark on the other side. Both side pieces are cut, but one end of the top piece is not. So what I want to do is just make sure that I'm good in my corner right here and that I'm flush with my case that I just installed. Now that that piece is nailed on, like I say, I'm just going to use it to help me hold this piece into place. Get it right where it needs to be. And go ahead and get a mark on it. And go cut that 45. What I want to do now is just focus on this corner with this top piece of trim. I'm going to get a few nails in there. I had to do something that I didn't really want to do, but I didn't have a choice. The other side of this trim was so messed up that I cut it off. I am going to splice a new piece in. It's just going to make my life a whole lot easier than trying to fight what was going on down there. So let's get this nailed up. And it's still trying to fight me. I've got that side nailed up where I'm happy with it. And as you can see, we're down quite a bit right here. I'm going to have to push this up and get it into place. This other part was just kind of like what this piece of trim is doing. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's pretty wonky. It takes a hard turn at the very end, and it's going to be a challenge as well. Because I like to start at the top, this one is going to force me to start at the bottom. Just to give you an idea how bad this trim is, it's nailed at the bottom where it needs to be. It's got to get pulled all the way over into here. That's pretty bad. I've completed the nailing of this one, and now I'm going to put in my splice. What I want to do now is just fill up all my nail holes with wood putty, and so that'll have time to dry and get sanded off nice and flush before paint. Here's the tread setting in place. I'm going to throw some stain on it. The board is a little bit warped, but the nails will pull it down and hold it in there nice. A little bit of stain and a little bit of polyurethane, and we'll be good to go. Now I'm going to caulk my trim. Normally I would caulk in here, but this has turned out so very tight that I'm not even going to caulk it. There's no reason to. The only thing that I'm going to caulk, and because the walls are already the color, I don't want to caulk this inside, and it's tight too, so I can't complain about that. I'm just going to caulk my seams on both sides. Now that it's caulked, I have just some wet paper towel here. I'm going to get my finger nice and wet and smooth this out, remove any excess. Like that. We'll be able to take a better look at it tomorrow when there's a little more light. I'm going to get this done so I can get it painted tomorrow and we can see the finished product. We're ready for some paint. I'm going to get this paint on here and then we're going to get this tread in. The trim is painted and we're almost ready to install this tread. Let's take a closer look at these corners and let's see how this SawSet Pro helped us get some tight corners. With the painting complete, we can take a look at these corners. We can see that they turned out very nice. A little bit of caulk, not much. The gap was even all the way across. This is the area right here somewhere where the splice is. You can kind of sort of see a little bump right there. That is the splice. I have a video and trim tutorial on splices. This is the other corner. Make sure you watch that. It's a good video. All the holes that the nails created are filled nicely. Everything looks very nice. We are ready to get this tread in. So let's get it. I have 2 coats of stain and 4 coats of satin polyurethane on here, and this is good to go. It does have a little bit of a bow to it. So what I'm going to do is put my nails in on a slight angle, not this steep, but it's toe nailing. And what toe nailing does is it makes it harder for the nail to pull out. So when I push this side down and nail it, then I won't have this side pulling back up. I'm going to put 4 nails here on a slight angle, just like that. I won't put any nails here, and I'm going to do the same thing down here once I get this bunked into place. With the tread installed and everything painted, this job is a wrap. Turned out really good, and I am pleased as could be with this. That's all we got for this time. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of those 2 videos right there, and we'll see you soon.